The sterile air of the war room hummed with tension. A concrete bunker buried deep within the Eisenhower Executive Office building, stripped of windows and distractions. This was DOGE's nerve center, the Department of Government Efficiency, a shadow operation forged to cut through the fat of federal bureaucracy. At the head of a titanium conference table sat Elon Musk, his gaze sharp as a blade, flanked by a dozen analysts hand-picked not for loyalty, but for their visceral disdain for waste. The folder in his hands hit the table with a thud, its contents a litany of fiscal sins: $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland, $2 million for gender activism in Guatemala, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. The numbers weren't just figures, they were indictments. "This isn't aid," Musk said, voice low but slicing. "It's laundering stupidity through performance art." A dry chuckle escaped one analyst, but the room stayed cold. USAID, the $40 billion behemoth cloaked in humanitarian rhetoric, was their target. "It's a global ATM for bad ideas," Musk continued, tossing another file down like a bad poker hand. "And we're pulling the plug." DOGE wasn't built to posture or tweet. It was built to audit, expose, and dismantle. The analysts, a mix of ex-NSA data slicers and private sector hawks, worked in silence, their screens glowing with contract flowcharts and vendor lists. One tapped his keyboard, and a wall-sized display lit up, tracing USAID's dollars to shell organizations and equity initiatives that had little to do with American interests. "DEI isn't our top export," Musk said, eyes narrowing. "Not when the border leaks worse than a Beltway bathroom." The mission was clear: go surgical. No symbolic gestures, no half measures. Musk turned to his assistant, who'd been typing silently. "Open communications. I want the Secretary of State looped in." A pause. "You mean Secretary Rubio?" the assistant asked. Musk nodded. "Tell Marco, the patient's septic. We need the scalpel." The Secretary of State's office was a study in beige restraint, mahogany trim, muted silence, and a formality that could choke a conversation. But when Marco Rubio received the president's directive, the air shifted. The crimson-stamped order was unambiguous. Assume interim control of USAID, full operational discretion, coordinate with DOGE. Rubio read it twice, then dropped it like it burned. Across from him, Musk sat, tablet glowing with numbers that baffled normal minds. Rubio wasn't here for data. He was here for a reckoning. $40 billion a year, Rubio said, loosening a cufflink. And we're subsidizing LGBT theater in Colombia and electric mopeds in Vietnam. Musk didn't flinch. "That's the public stuff." Rubio's eyes narrowed. "I've hated this agency since the Senate. They're rogue, unresponsive. Think they're a global charity, not American policy." He pulled a thin file from his drawer. "Ambassadors have come to me privately. USAID's undermining strategy, funding chaos. And when we ask where the money goes, silence or sarcasm." Musk slid him DOGE's dossier. "This isn't sarcasm. It's criminal negligence dressed as activism." Rubio skimmed it. 83% of contracts flagged for bias or no oversight. Shell NGOs, untraceable subcontractors. He closed the file with a snap. 3 steps. Audit everything. Cancel what we can't justify. Fold what's worth saving into state. Musk cracked a rare smile. "So you're going full tactical," Rubio corrected him, standing. "I'm going full constitutional." He walked to the window, the National Mall stretching out under calm skies, a temporary illusion. USAID doesn't get to play savior with taxpayer dollars. Musk leaned back. You'll need authority on paper. Rubio didn't hesitate. I don't need a speech. I need the order. Minutes later, he signed the directive. Immediate freeze on USAID's discretionary spending, comprehensive contract review to follow. The pen clicked, the order dispatched. USAID, the sacred cow of soft power, was on notice. The USAID headquarters gleamed with marble pride, but sleet and uncertainty clung to its facade. By noon, reporters swarmed the entrance, boom mics like bayonets, flashbulbs popping. A lone protester waved a sign, DEI is humanitarian. Rubio stepped to the podium, coat open, no teleprompter, just cold clarity. Effective immediately, we're terminating 83% of USAID contracts, he announced. The rest are under review and will be repurposed or shut down. Murmurs rippled. A CNN correspondent dropped his latte. Rubio held up a chart, brutal in its simplicity. Here's where your money went. $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland. $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala. $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. $6 million for Egyptian tourism. He paused, letting the silence bite. That's just what they published. God knows what's buried deeper. An NPR reporter, sharp-suited, sharper-toned, cut in. You're gutting humanitarian aid. Isn't that dangerous for global partners? Rubio didn't blink. What's dangerous is mistaking ideology for aid. Funding drag theater in Colombia isn't foreign policy. It's performance art. The crowd half snorted, half gasped. The reporter pressed. But surely, Rubio stepped forward, voice lethal. Don't call this a cut to aid. Call it removing ideological toxins from the budget. Behind him, workers dismantled USAID's bronze emblem, the letters clanging as they fell. Bureaucrats watched, a low moan rolling through the lobby. Reporters spun, headlines forming mid-sentence, Rubio slashes aid, DOGE purge. Inside, hushed voices whispered of legal challenges, constitutional, appointments clause, anything. The shockwave had landed. Protests and lawsuits loomed. Rubio walked to his SUV, mission executed. Judge Theodore Chuang's courtroom was no theater. No flair, just a bench, a robe, and quiet confidence. He thumbed through a complaint from 26 USAID employees claiming unlawful dismissal by a rogue DOGE operation. The plaintiff's counsel, a smooth-voiced activist, stepped forward. This administration's created an unchecked entity. DOGE operates outside Senate confirmation. Musk acts with federal authority without nomination. No confirmation, no control. Chuang raised a brow. You're invoking the appointments clause? Precisely, the lawyer said, and it violates separation of powers. Chuang turned to the government's attorney. Your response? She stood firm. Musk is a private sector advisor holding no statutory authority. DOGE assists in identifying inefficiencies. Chuang cut in. Terminating 83% of contracts, reassigning property, that's not advisory. That's authority without accountability. He lifted a page, reading aloud. His power includes seizing congressionally approved funds, accessing sensitive data, cutting systems access at will. He lowered it. That's a problem. Silence fell. Chuang signed the injunction. All DOGE terminations, cancellations, and reassignments to cease pending review. Employees regained access. The government isn't a machine that cuts its own limbs on impulse, he said, handing the order to the clerk. Outside, reporters scrambled. Inside, Plaintiffs nodded in triumph. DOGE's scalpel was locked away. The injunction landed on Rubio's desk in a plain envelope delivered by a trembling intern. Headlines screamed, "Judge halts DOGE! Musk's shadow agency frozen." Musk sat across from Rubio, flipping through the order, eyes unblinking. "We just got bench-slapped by the administrative state," he muttered. Rubio stared at the ceiling. "We have executive authority. Congress doesn't run USAID. It's under me. And now a district judge decides who we fire?" Musk was already typing. "What are you doing?" Rubio asked. "Googling how many unelected lawyers it takes to override a president. Spoiler, 1, if he's from Maryland and Obama appointed." A bitter laugh from a DOGE staffer. Rubio slammed the desk. "They're not just saving USAID. They're testing if the executive branch has a spine." Musk stood, voice cool. "This is a government where nobody gets fired, ever. Lifetime funding, no accountability, now court protection. It's a pension plan with a press team." Rubio stood. "We escalate. File the appeal, 10th Circuit, today." His legal officer nodded. "Already in motion. We'll argue standing, scope, executive prerogative." The judge leaned on media quotes. "We've got them." Musk raised an eyebrow. "War over footnotes and tweets?" Rubio's eyes hardened. "War over control." Emails flew, phones dialed, legal briefs opened like battle maps. DOGE wasn't leading, it was responding. But in Washington, response is just the next move. Courtroom 2 of the Federal Appeals Circuit was heavy with anticipation. At the center sat Judge A. Marvin Quattlebaum, a constitutionalist with no patience for theatrics. The government's attorney went first. The injunction was based on assumption, not law. Musk isn't a federal officer, no title, no salary, no command authority. He advises. The plaintiff's counsel countered, "He's revoked systems, overseen terminations, directed resources. If it quacks like authority, it's not a duck. It's a constitutional violation." Quattlebaum didn't flinch. "Documentation of Musk issuing executive orders?" "No formal documents," the lawyer admitted, "but tweets, leaks, internal chatter." Quattlebaum raised an eyebrow. "We're litigating on Reddit now?" A clerk stifled a laugh. The lawyer stiffened. "His actions are indistinguishable from an officer's." Quattlebaum leaned forward. "Influence isn't command. If every advisor with the president's ear was an officer, we'd confirm podcast hosts." He straightened. "This court finds no constitutional violation. The injunction is stayed. DOGE may resume." He paused. "Unconventional doesn't equal unconstitutional. Reform doesn't need a necktie." The gavel struck. Reporters scrambled. At the State Department, a fax hummed, "Injunction lifted. DOGE authorized." Rubio read it, then turned to his aide. "Get me DOGE. We start at sunrise." The press gaggle tripled. CNN to Al Jazeera packed shoulder to shoulder. Rubio walked out, papers in hand, no teleprompter, posture unyielding. $2 billion in terminated contracts, 112 shell organizations defunded, 14 redundant DEI programs canceled, 0 apologies. A pause. "We didn't win a court case. We won clarity. The executive branch has the right to fix what's broken. USAID was broken, deeply." A New York Times reporter scribbled. A voice from the back shouted, "Isn't cutting global aid unethical?" Rubio didn't flinch. "We're not against morality. We're against funding someone else's morality with other people's money." Muffled chuckles. He continued, "No more equity ballet in countries that burn our flags. No more gender programs in unstable regimes. No more diversity grants while veterans sleep in tents. An NPR mic shifted uncomfortably. Rubio raised a folder. The State Department has notified Congress. All non-essential USAID functions sunset by July 1st. That's not a threat. That's a schedule. He turned, no wink, no gesture, just a deliberate exit. A line in Washington's sand was drawn. Before the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Rubio sat upright, folder in hand, patience thin. The State Department has notified Congress. Non-essential USAID operations sunset by July 1st. Reallocation is underway. Integration into state finalized. A congresswoman, resume heavy with climate equity, fired first. You're dismantling America's moral leadership abroad. Rubio smirked. No, we're retiring the idea that moral leadership means paying for DEI dance in foreign capitals. Snickers from Republicans, groans from Democrats. Another jumped in. You're pulling America off the global stage. Rubio opened his folder. We're pulling out of nonsense. USAID hasn't projected American values. It's projected academic fads wrapped in our flag. The chairman cleared his throat. The timeline's ambitious. Is state ready? Rubio didn't hesitate. Yes, DOGE has mapped it. Embassies are briefed. We're executing. He closed the folder, stood. We're not shrinking America's role. We're making sure it looks like America. He walked out before they could clap or call a recess. The USAID building whispered defeat. Its brass letters, USAID, were half removed. The D face down in a box marked CBP property. Rubio stood outside, coat unbuttoned, gaze steady. The symbolism spoke louder than words. Inside, staffers packed, disbelief thick. A woman in her 60s, decades of ideological armor, crossed her arms as Rubio entered. History will judge you. He paused by the wall where USAID's seal once hung, now just a ghost outline. History doesn't cut checks. I do silence. Even the moving crew slowed. Rubio passed a DOGE liaison by a cart of folders labeled CBP transfer. Everything ready? He asked. Yes, sir. By next week, this address won't redirect. Rubio glanced back, not nostalgic, confirming an era's end. This place didn't fall, he muttered. It ran out of excuses. He stepped into the DC wind, sharper now. The DOGE war room's lights were surgical, unforgiving. A digital dashboard glowed, listing agencies, UNESCO Liaison, Gender Affairs Directorate, International Climate Initiative. Most were red. Musk stood, hands behind his back. 12 agencies, he said, sliding a tablet to Rubio. Same bloat, same God complex. Rubio scrolled, stopping at one. We're still funding this. Musk nodded. We increased their budget. They offer healing retreats for climate advocates in the Alps. Rubio blinked. Spa trips for people sad about the weather? A long pause. He set the tablet down. We won't break them all in one term, but we start again. Musk nodded. DOGE wasn't built for ceremonies. It's for demolitions. The room stilled, not with doubt, but clarity. Rubio paused at the door, looking at the pulsing red screen. The courts gave us the green light, but DOGE never needed permission. He gripped the door frame, then spoke, words echoing into every beltway bureaucracy. The courts have ruled. But DOGE isn't done.